I spent 100 hours turning Brackeys 2D platformer tutorial into an endless roguelike, where your torch is your light, your timer, the resource powering your weapon, and sometimes even the thing that gets you killed. Almost 8 million people have watched the original tutorial, and in a previous video I documented the first 10 hours, improving its movement, effects, and game feel. But the problem is, underneath all that polish, it's still just one tiny tutorial level. So instead of stopping at 10 hours, I decided to give myself 100 hours. But with one rule. Every character, every enemy, and environment still had to use the original artwork. But to understand how I got there, we need to go back to hour 0. And at that point, the torch didn't even exist yet. At hour 0, the game had one small level, a character that could move and jump, some coins, one stompable slime, and a kill zone. So the first thing I needed to improve was the player. I improved the acceleration and jumping, added forgiveness mechanics like coyote time, and layered in squash, particles, and screen effects. Basically, I wanted moving through the game to feel a bit more satisfying before building anything around it. But better movement immediately created another problem. There was nowhere interesting to actually use it. A handmade level works for a tutorial, but I wanted something a bit more replayable. So I combined the movement of a platformer with endlessly generated roguelike caves, and eventually a little bit of horror. Now, the first step to this is procedurally generated dungeons. I used reusable room chunks and stitched them together inside of one large tile map, similar to how Spelunky does it. The generator chose an entrance, created a rough path towards the bottom, and filled the remaining spaces with additional rooms. By the end of the first 10 hours, the character felt dramatically better and the game could create more than one level as well. But most of the levels were completely empty. So the next question was obvious. What was the player actually supposed to do inside of them? During the next 10 hours, I filled the cave with bats, ranged enemies, more slimes, crates, breakable objects, coin drops, pickups, and the first very rough boss. I also connected the floors so reaching the bottom generated another cave instead of ending the game. So technically, we now have a procedural platformer. But the problem is, when I played it, the fastest strategy to win was to just follow the main path and go straight down and just ignore everything. So another problem came up, which is why fight an enemy when avoiding it is easier? Why explore a side room if coins don't do anything? And dying resets the total anyways, so again, what's the point? So to solve this, I added a shop. It now sits somewhere inside of the generated level. At first, it didn't really look that amazing, but that's okay. We'll get back to this. The point is, this gave the player another reason to search. But again, it created another problem. What was the shop supposed to sell? After about 20 hours, I had basically just made the tutorial much larger, which doesn't solve anything, it actually just created a bigger problem. It had generated floors, more enemies, a boss, and even a shop. But again, it just felt like a bigger tutorial. So instead of adding even more content at this point, I had to stop and look for one idea that could connect the combat, the exploration, and survival. I already knew that I wanted to add some horror to the game, and caves aren't exactly frightening, especially when every corner is perfectly lit. So I gave the player a torch that slowly burns out as they progress through the level. The flame basically became a second health bar. It controlled how much of the cave you could actually see, changed the atmosphere as it weakened, and eventually allowed shadows to come hunt you when it went out. Enemies could also now drop embers, which reignite your torch, so now there's a better reason to actually fight the enemies. This basically connected the system of the game and the player actually killing stuff. At least that was the idea. Because when I tested it, the smartest strategy was still to just skip everything and sprint towards the exit and go kill the boss. I hadn't really created an interesting light mechanic at all. I basically just created a countdown. So at this point, I thought, okay, let me try detaching the torch from the player. Now you can drop it, throw it across the room, reveal the cave with an echo, and recall it whenever you need it back. Now the safe area isn't where the player is, it's wherever the torch is and wherever you place the light. But leaving safety was still always the wrong decision, so I added hollow. If you think of Don't Starve Together, the further you travel from your own light, the higher the coin multiplier becomes. The catch is that those bonus coins remain unbanked until you safely return. If the flame goes out, the darkness starts taking everything that you were greedy enough to actually carry. This way, every trip away from the torch becomes a gamble. Either you turn back now or bank what you earned. Or you can push deeper for a larger multiplier and risk losing everything. Now, darkness wasn't only something to escape, it was something the player might willingly actually enter. The light system gave the game a bit more identity at this point. But the original tutorial still gave the player a free ranged attack that completely undermined a game about conserving one resource. So I removed the default attack, gave the player one weapon slot, and turned weapons into a physical pickup that had to be swapped, or could be swapped. Now, each weapon also has different relationships with the flame. One weapon is a single shot that basically reduces your torch light every shot. There's another weapon that restores it the closer you fight, and a signal launcher that creates a temporary light source wherever it lands. Now, choosing a weapon is no longer just choosing damage, it's a little bit more strategy. It's choosing the way you want to survive. And that finally takes us back to the shop and gives the shop a bit more meaning, because now we can add items to the shop that actually do stuff. Now, the first few upgrades I added were tiny percentage increases, basically, and they technically worked, but you could barely feel them. So I replaced them with upgrades that changed the rules, like repeating every attack or leaving light behind when you dashed. Combining those with different weapons created actual builds now, and with one combination, it completely removes the danger. With this, for example, I could recover flame faster than I spent it. An important note here is a powerful build should bend the rules, not delete the reason that the game exists in the first place. So I added costs, cooldowns, and situations where every source of flame could fail. Once weapons and items interacted with the light, the enemies needed to follow the same rules. Otherwise, they were still normal platformer enemies placed inside of a dark room, and that's not exactly fun. So, for example, this monster can only be damaged while there's light, whereas this one can only be damaged in the dark. I also turned some of the Ember pickups into mimics. This way, when the player finds an Ember that they think will help them, it turns out it actually attacks them, just like a mimic does. Okay, now at this point, I wanted to take the boss a little bit further and improve it. So this is the Moth Queen. The Moth Queen heals while illuminated. Basically, when there's light, it heals. So to damage her, you have to enter the darkness. But doing that also weakens the shadows surrounding her. Now, the idea sounded good in my head, but when I actually tried implementing it, there was a lot of bugs that followed. So the healing bug, for example, basically made her impossible to kill. So instead of guessing the numbers, I measured exactly how much damage and how much healing happened during each vulnerable window. So basically I fixed it. Balance changes. We love balance changes. Now, after fixing it, entering darkness finally created a real opportunity to attack. At this point, I have pretty much connected so many systems to the flame that I could barely understand what was happening though. So as you can imagine, this creates another problem. So I rebuilt the HUD, the UI. We made every important flame change visible and judged every feature with one question. Does this create an interesting decision involving light? If not, I had to either remove it, simplify it, or redesign it. The thing is, at this point, the moment-to-moment game kind of works, but the run itself doesn't. I've designed the bosses, I've added lights, I've added so many different features, but the problem is you defeat the boss and the game stops. That kind of kills the endless part of a roguelike, at least at the moment, because the run was only 3 floors. So I changed things up a bit. I made the boss appear every 5 floors, and I added a new boss. I also added something called Ember Dust. Now this is more important to the roguelike aspect of the game, because this brings us to the Hearth. The Hearth is a home base where you return after death. The Ember Dust buys permanent upgrades, unlocks weapons, unless you choose the loadout for your next descent. Naturally, one health upgrade was tracked correctly and never applied. So every permanent upgrade was moved through the same run start every time. The progression system loop finally worked. Unfortunately, the levels supporting it started breaking. The original generator understood room connections, but not what the player could physically reach. As the caves became more vertical, it produced exits behind the terrain, gaps the player couldn't cross, and weapons buried inside the ground. So I rebuilt the generator around the character's real jump, double jump, and dash distance. After generating a cave, the game tested whether the exit could be reached. If the test fails, it rejects that cave and tries again. It's kind of a convoluted procedural generation system thing, but it's kind of required at this point. Now, a lot of this is code technical, so I won't really show it. But the important part here is to note that I spent basically a couple hours remaking the code for the procedural generation. I also turned the rough shop into a sanctuary. This way, it's a protected area that the player can enter and not have to worry about monsters attacking it while you're deciding what to shop for. Exploring the cave itself now actually offers survival, stronger builds, and a long-term progress. This game finally actually feels like a roguelike. But the problem is, visually, it still kind of looks like the original tutorial inside of a darker room. And because of the restrictions, I couldn't exactly replace the asset packs. So I changed the mood using lighting, shaders, and environmental details, basically adding moss and vines using shaders. I had one idea where I thought I could add a backdrop with rocks using the asset pack, but it didn't really look good, as you can imagine. I could try to randomize it, but I think the original looked a little better, so I kind of just reverted that. And that's something important to note. Not every hour you spend on the game will be good. Sometimes you make a decision that you think is amazing, and then it just backfires, and it looks terrible. So you have to kind of waste a couple hours. Now, at this point, I've added so many different features to the game, but I haven't done a full run on my own. So I playtested the game, I got some friends to playtest it, and to be honest, the game kind of sucked. So I had about 10 to 20 hours left, and that's where I spent my last 20 hours, refining the game and making it a bit more enjoyable. The learning curve was also pretty steep because I added so many features to the game all at once. I knew what was going on as the developer, but people who just started the game, I was throwing basically 10 features at them and they had no idea what to do. So I essentially cut back on the first couple floors, taking away like the dash, for example, different things that you can or can't do in the first couple floors. This way, it kind of creates that sense of a full tutorial for the first 3 floors, allowing the new person to play actually have a more positive experience. And after about 100 hours, Brackeys platformer tutorial had become a game called The Torch. I know, a really creative name. If you guys don't like the name, I don't know, make some better names in the comments down below. But the point is, more time isn't what made this happen. It happened when I found the one idea, the torch, and forced things like exploration, combat, survival, and progression to revolve around it. The first 20 hours of the game was making a good chunk of the system. It was basically making the tutorial bigger, making it a bit more enjoyable, but the remaining 80 hours went into actually giving the game an identity. Now, if you guys want to learn to make games like this, whether you're a beginner, intermediate, or advanced, whatever it is, I teach how to make systems like this on my website on codingquest.io. I know, shameless plug, but go check it out. I promise you guys might like it. It's not your typical tutorial or YouTube video, so go check it out down below. The demo takes less than 2 minutes, but without further ado, that is it for this video. Thank you all for listening, and I will see you guys next time.